Brennan had just gotten off the plane and was sharing her joy of returning home with Angela. The next second, she suddenly sensed someone following her.
Sir, why are you following us?
The man claimed to be from Homeland Security. He said he needed to inspect Brennan's bag, but when he opened the backpack, he was shocked to see a dark, dusty skull inside.
Boo.
Brennan was a mega-brainy forensic anthropologist, basically a rock star when it came to bones. She had just returned from Guatemala, where she studied mass graves and ethnic genocide. The skull? It was a souvenir from her research, something she brought back for further study. Even though her explanation sounded totally legit, the man still treated her like a possible threat. That's when another man walked in, introducing himself as Agent Booth from the FBI. Booth confirmed Brennan was a consultant for major crimes. He even pulled out a best-selling book Brennan wrote on forensic science. The Homeland Security guy didn't doubt a thing. He told Booth he could take Brennan with him, but Brennan felt something was off. The two men were terrible actors. She quickly realized this whole thing was staged, just to trick her into helping the FBI on a case. After getting exposed, both men looked super awkward. In the car, Booth kept trying to convince Brennan. He said the FBI really needed someone with her skills. No matter what he said, Brennan just kept replying, no. After they got out of the car, Booth kept rambling behind her. Finally, Brennan had enough and laid out her terms. She would only help if she could be fully involved in solving the case. Booth smiled and immediately agreed. The two of them immediately rushed to the crime scene, Arlington National Cemetery. The case began when a crew doing routine landscaping work lowered the water level of a lake. That's when they accidentally discovered a skeleton wrapped in barbed wire. Brennan carefully examined the corpse, which had almost no flesh left on it. From the shape of the pelvis, she confirmed the victim was a woman around 20 years old, about 5'3" tall. Because the body was wrapped in barbed wire, it didn't float to the surface while decomposing. The cracked skull showed clear signs of blunt force trauma to the head. From the inflammation in the shoulder joint, Brennan guessed the victim had been a tennis player. Booth looked at the naked corpse and suspected it might be a assault case, but Brennan believed the victim had been wearing natural fiber clothing, which decomposed much faster than flesh. Next, they brought the body back to the Jeffersonian Institute. There, the bug and plant expert, Hodgins, found 3 generations of caddisfly larvae on the bones. That meant the body had been underwater for over a year, probably since last spring. They also found some tiny bones in the lake bed that didn't belong to the victim, but it was still unclear if they were related to the case. In addition, they recovered some small metal rings, possibly fallen from a necklace. To speed up the identification process, Brennan started reconstructing the shattered pieces of the skull. After working all night, she finally pieced together a complete skull. Although it was badly damaged, the preserved features showed the victim was African American. Angela then used a holographic projection to recreate the victim's facial features.
Does she look familiar to anyone?
Her name's Cleo Louise Eller, only daughter to Ted and Sharon Eller.
There were rumors that Cleo, the victim, had been secretly seeing Senator Bethlehem. Coincidentally, Booth had been the officer assigned to her missing person case. The two of them headed to the FBI office to report their findings to Booth's supervisor, Andrew. So far, they had 3 main suspects. First was Senator Bethlehem, who allegedly had an affair with Cleo. Second was Cleo's boyfriend, Ken, who, interestingly, also worked as the senator's assistant. The third suspect was Oliver, a man who had been stalking Cleo for some time. As for who the real killer was, they still had no idea. Meanwhile, the lab team found tiny steel mill particles on Cleo's skull, which proved the murder weapon was likely a sledgehammer. They also detected traces of cement and diatomaceous earth, which is commonly used as a filtering agent. Later, Cleo's parents revealed that she used to wear a necklace made from her father's military badge. Back at the lab, Brennan returned just in time for Hodgins' latest results. He had tested insect shells and discovered that Cleo had been taking anti-nausea medications like Limnine and hydrochloride meclizine. Based on tiny fetal bones found in the mud, Brennan suspected that Cleo had been pregnant when she died. This discovery made Bethlehem an even bigger suspect. They believed he might have feared the pregnancy would ruin his career, so he silenced Cleo for good. Brennan went to confront Bethlehem. Of course, the senator refused to cooperate.
The only question, Senator, is which one of you is the father? Are you willing to submit to a DNA test?
Ken, we have a vote to get to.
As he left, Bethlehem casually tossed his chewing gum into the trash. Brennan immediately rushed over and grabbed it. Seeing this, Bethlehem told his assistant Ken to stop her, but Brennan swiftly flipped Ken over and walked out like a boss. What she didn't know was that this move caused huge trouble for Booth. Andrew was furious at Brennan for acting without permission. He shut down the lab partnership and even removed Booth from his position as team lead. To make matters worse, the baby bones found on site didn't contain enough DNA for a paternity test. Still, Brennan became more certain that Bethlehem was hiding something. He shouldn't have known the sample was incomplete, yet he was desperate to stop her from taking the gum, which made him look even more guilty. After leaving Andrew's office, Booth shared his thoughts. They had only 12 hours left before the case was handed over, so they decided to start with the alleged stalker, Oliver. But when questioned, Oliver told a different story. He said he wasn't a stalker at all. He was Cleo's close friend. Ken had framed him as a stalker to create a scandal and protect Bethlehem's political career. Back at the lab, they discovered that the skull injury wasn't actually the cause of death. Angela used imaging to recreate the scene. She found that Cleo was likely stabbed 5 to 8 times with a military knife. Then, the killer sliced off the flesh from her fingertips and finally smashed her face with a sledgehammer. Everything pointed to a premeditated murder. Wiping fingerprints, stripping her clothes and jewelry, and dumping the body, all of it showed the killer tried hard to hide Cleo's identity. The killer even planted fake evidence. Fibers found in Cleo's hand matched those from a Bible in Oliver's house. The military knife and the fact that the body was dumped in a military cemetery shifted suspicion to Cleo's father. At this point, all clues were pointing to Bethlehem. Booth applied for a warrant and searched Bethlehem's house, but all they found was a sledgehammer. To charge him, they needed to connect the weapon, the scene, and the victim, all three. Feeling stuck, Brennan and her team sat down to brainstorm. That's when something Zach said caught Brennan's attention.
Fish!
She remembered diatomaceous earth is often used in fish tank filters, and Oliver had mentioned that Bethlehem's assistant Ken kept a lot of tropical fish. Just earlier, Ken had seen the search warrant. He now knew the police were looking for cement floors containing diatomaceous earth. If Brennan was right, Ken was already trying to destroy evidence. She told Angela to alert Booth, then rushed straight to Ken's house. Through the window, she saw Ken pouring gasoline on the floor. Without hesitation, Brennan grabbed a flower pot and broke in. When she tried to stop him, Ken insisted he was just cleaning up. But as he prepared to light the fire, Brennan calmly drew her gun and shot him before he could. The real killer was finally caught. A few days later, Cleo's parents held a long overdue funeral. At the graveside, Brennan and Booth had their first honest conversation. From that moment on, they became unbreakable partners.